Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another session of our webinar here at the Canadian Institute for Cybersecurity. Our guest for today is Shabnam Saderi. Uh, Shabnam, welcome to today's webinar. Usually at this point, we ask our guests, to introduce themselves. I do have your introduction, but I think it will be better if you introduce yourself and then, take us through your presentation.
Thank you, Sumit. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this talk. My name is Shabnam Saderi, and as a little bit of about myself is that I got a bachelor and master's in electrical engineering. During my bachelor's and master's, I did cybersecurity related research. That's why today I'm here, and I'm also a cybersecurity research assistant here at Canadian Institute for Cybersecurity. And today I'm going to talk about present one of our work that we collaborated with one of our partners, New Brunswick Power. And this is the outcome and production of the work that we did, I would say, 2 years ago. And I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the presentation outline what I will be talking about. I'm going to go through the introduction, kind of talk about the application that we are going to consider. What is this application and why? What is the problem with this application? What are the challenges this application is actually going through, and what is the need for these adding security to this application? Then we are going to talk about the proposed solution. The solution that we propose has two variants. One is the classical one, and we didn't just stop in the classical one, and we actually proposed the post-quantum variant of the protocols as well. And then we are going to talk about the experimental evaluation and conclude the talk. So let me begin with a brief introduction to smart grid. So traditionally, power networks and were operating with minimal digital communication. Mostly the communication was one way, monitoring and manual control. But today the smart grid is going to introduce computing, communication and automation into every stage of power delivery, from generation units all the way to the consumers. So this transformation enables continuous situational awareness and automated decision-making, helping maintain a stability even under changing conditions, such as an example, fluctuating demand or fluctuating faults. In short, the smart grid is not just an electrical network anymore, it is a cyber physical system. So why actually it is necessary this transition is necessary, why we are considering transitioning from a traditional grid to a smart grid. So first of all, we need to know that smart grid nowadays supports real-time visibility and control over thousands of devices across the grid. Second of all, it enables demand response and load balancing, making power delivery more efficient. Third, it is going to enable, we can gain the ability to automatically detect the faults and store power faster, reduce the outage durations. Smart grid also is going to enhance the service quality and operation efficiency. And also, it's going to support renewable energy integration where generation can fluctuate rapidly. And finally, it's going to introduce a new concept, which is a bidirectional communication. So consumers are no longer passive users. They actively participate in energy management through smart meters that they have, through the rooftop solar panels that they have, electrical vehicles, and also smart homes and as well, everything. So together, these capabilities improve reliability, efficiency, and sustainability. And but what actually makes smart grid smarter, and what are the entities that facilitates this communication and the grid smarter? The first one is the key element is the deployment of the intelligent electronic devices, such as PLCs, RTUs. These devices can sense the grid and execute control operations. Secondly, we have supervisory control and data aggregation systems and control centers. These are going to gather data, run analytics, and issue supervisory comments. And it is really important to make this smart grid smarter, right? We have smart substation and distribution automation. These networks going to improve protection, switching, and fault handling. We also have advanced metering infrastructure, as we call them AMI, enabling continuous measurement and millions of endpoints. As we talked, we have distributed energy resources, whether it is solar panels, wind turbines, storages, they are integrated directly into the grid. But what makes these devices interconnected, tying all devices together, is the communication infrastructure. So wired and wireless networks, industrial protocols, and standards that allow these elements to communicate with each other is really important, and it is one of the critical yet most, I would say, important part of the smart grid. So the smart grid, it's not just stops there. To know why security matters within these systems, we actually categorize the smart grid overall. It has 4 domains, and we are going to look into these domains and how, in a high level, how attacker can have an impact on each of these domains. So the first domain will be the generation part. As the name states, this is where electricity is produced. Whether from large power plants or distributed renewable sources, this part of the smart grid is producing energy, right? So a successful attacker here can shut down the generator. This can lead to immediate power shortage and even nationwide blackouts. The second part is the transmission and distribution part, where this part is going to transport energy across long distance and route power safely to the consumers. Here, if the attacker is successful, what's going to happen? It can disrupt the power flows. It can damage the equipment or cause cascading failures across the grid. The other domain that we have is the commercial and industrial part. These facilities represent some of the largest and most sensitive energy consumers. Cyber attackers here can halt production lines, create physical hazards, or inflict major economic losses. And finally, we have the residential parts. This is more tangible to us, even for me. We see this every time in our life. So we have, if you see some of the houses nowadays, they have solar panels on their rooftops. We are using electrical vehicles. We are making our home smarter by using devices that are connected to the network, right? So one will argue what an attacker can do at this point. One of the important things here is the privacy breaches. So attacker can target your privacy. You don't want to share your private information with everyone. Maybe you're willing to give your information to the utility provider, but you don't want to give your information to people who are actually sitting in the network. So this is one of the important things that the attacker can do. Also, it can manipulate your bills or destabilize the neighborhood by coordinating load changes. So all of these domains are kind of important. One might argue about the fact that maybe some of the domains are having more catastrophic impact if an attacker is aiming to attack those domains. But we have to know in order to have a stable grid, we have to know the vulnerable point of each of these domains and try to like add security in a way that our grid, our smart grid is stable at all domains. So as we move into the more automation and remote operations, securing one aspect is more important than the others. As I mentioned in this slide, the communication infrastructure is the thing, is the I would say the element that is tying all the devices in the smart grid. That's why today I would say the purpose of the talk is mostly aiming to see how we can secure the communication infrastructure. So so let's talk about the problem within that communication infrastructure and what are the things that we have to take into the consideration. So first of all, many of these industrial protocols, if you go through the, like, what is the element that these devices are using to communicate with each other are the protocol. And these protocols, whether it is Modbus, whether it is DNP3, other protocols, although they were like designed to have a different purposes, but they didn't design, like they were designed decades ago. They didn't have any built-in security. And like the traditional grid that we had, they were like isolated areas, and nobody was thinking of adding security while designing these protocols. So there is no authentication, no encryption. So attacker can spoof comments, reply past events, or inject malicious values without being detected. Another challenge I would say is the time critical operations. So this timeliness is important. Protection systems have very strict requirements, sub-millisecond responses in some cases. So any cryptographic, any security primitives we are like forcing into the system is going to add in some overhead. So like we cannot look over the fact that these overheads are going to happen anyway. But we have to be careful what kind of primitives we are using. So these primitives maybe cause the system to respond too slowly, potentially leading to incorrect breakers, trips, or kind of failure to interrupt the fault. We also need to keep in mind that we are dealing with resource constraint field devices. These devices, some of the devices that actually are in the grid, in the operational technology, they are deployed, I would say, decades ago. So we have to keep in mind that some of these devices are resource constrained devices, and we cannot force them to operate using heavy cryptographic protocols like TLS, IPsec. And also we have to keep in mind that these protocols, when added to the system, maybe not be sufficient and efficient for some of the communication models. The other one that always, I would say, overlooked and is not considered a very important problem most of the time is the identity, privacy, and trust. So current secure variants, if you go through the academic papers, you will see that, but we are talking about the real world scenarios. They are using TLS, and TLS itself doesn't bring us identity privacy. So that is one thing that is missing from the TLS as well. So lack of built-in authenticated TCP layer also with ID hiding is something that we're going to look into more thoroughly. And at the final main point that I want to mention is the attack surface keeps expanding with remote access, cloud-based analytics, and DER integration. More connectivity means more entry points for different type of attacks, from man-in-the-middle attack to denial of service attack, false data injections, and delay attacks. So what do we actually need from a security protocol? When designing a security protocol, we have to have a plan. So we cannot like just say, hey, these are the primitives that I can use. We have to like have a goal in mind, what we are trying to achieve within our system. So the first thing that we want to achieve when designing this protocol is the timeliness. So we shouldn't overlook this. And the protocol must be lightweight enough, yet like fast, to preserve the real-time protection and control. If a security layer introduces too much latency, operators will disable in that command in practice, defeating the purpose, right? We need the integrity. Any manipulation of the data can have severe physical consequences. False strips, hidden faults, or incorrect control actions can cause important impact to the grid. And we need the confidentiality. Any information that is being sent between the client to the server or any devices, intelligent electronic devices that are sending these messages should be confidential. So operational data such as breakthrough status, load levels, or customer usage cannot be leaked or intercepted, because this information can reveal grid vulnerabilities as well. And of course, we shouldn't look over the scalability. So we have to design something. The solution must support millions of communication devices. So we have to keep in mind when designing these solution that we are going to incorporate the communication between those amount of devices. So the central challenge is this: how do we add strong cryptographic primitives that are lightweight, and also they're bringing all of these I would say design goals without breaking the operational constraint that keep the grid stable and safe. So to understand how we secure the communication, we first we are going to propose the work that we did. This paper actually got accepted and also presented at the FVS, at the Montreal FVS conference 2024. And before I'm going through the protocol itself, just a quick recap of the elements that we are going to use to secure the communication in the grid. First of all is the key agreement protocol. It's an easy thing. It's a classical, in the classical systems, what we are doing when two entities, here Alice and Bob, they want to communicate with each other, they have to derive a session key and so that they can use that session key later on for securing the messages they are sending to each other. So in a classical version, both parties, Alice will create its own private key and a public key associated to that private key. It will not share the private key of its own, but it will share the public key associated with that private key to the Bob. Bob will do the same. It will create a private key and the public key associated to that private key and send it to Alice. Alice and Bob will use their own private key and the received public key to drive the session key. This is something that most of the devices in the system are doing it. Nowadays, because of the efficiency and also security, they are relying on a curves, and they call it elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman key agreement protocol. If you're using a key, you want to drive a session key in a quantum era, you're not going to use a key agreement protocol. You're using a key encapsulation mechanism. It is kind of the purpose is the same as the key agreement, but the underlying mathematics is going to be different. Here, one of the users is going to send the public key to the other user. The other user will use an encapsulation mechanism to come up with the session key and a ciphertext, and it will send the ciphertext to the other user. So the other user will use that ciphertext and a decapsulation mechanism to come up with the key. So both of the elements, they're going to drive the session key here. Then for securing the communication and breaking the confidentiality and integrity, we need some encryption mechanism. Here we are going to use a authenticated encryption with associated data. It's like the encryption mechanism will accept the key derived during the key agreement or key encapsulation mechanism. It will feed the message and associated data, and it will drive this ciphertext and attack. This mechanism will bring confidentiality and integrity at both at the same time. For the decryption, they will feed the key, ciphertext, associated data, and tag. And if the tag verification stands, it will drive the message. And this is kind of like a common thing that is being used in most of the systems. And one other thing, we are going to take advantage of the message identification code to bring the integrity. It is just accepts the key and the message, and it will produce the tag, and the verification function will accept the tag and message and the key and will verify the tag. And for entity authentication, we are going to use a digital signature. It's going to accept the message and the signing key and produce the signature. At the same time, it's going to, the verification protocol will accept this verification key, signature, and the message, and verify the key. So these are the 4 tools that are going to help us to design a authenticated data acquisition, which is going to also preserve the privacy of the identity as well. So let's look into how these protocols work. This is the first version of the protocol that we propose. It is a pre-shared key authenticated data acquisition protocol. So here, both of those devices, they are going to share a long-term key. This long-term key can be provisioned during the setup or installation by the manufacturer. So both server and the client have a shared key name, long-term shared key named KC. So what will happen? This KC, it is going to authenticate the initial TCP handshake. It protects the device identity from being exposed, and it ensures the integrity of the key element values exchanged during the setup. Because each device also includes a unique identifier, we're going to secure that identity as well, which is something that I mentioned is missing on the TLS. The protocol pretty much, it's kind of looked how TLS is there. So there is no need for specific change in the devices because they know how to, the TLS handshake and everything works. So everything is kind of the same, but we are going to change into the handshake in a way that is going to bring some of the primitives that we want to have in the system. So client will start the handshake by generating a SIM packet and using the MAC generation, using the long-term key on the SIM packet it's generated, it will produce a tag. This tag is going to kind of preserve the integrity of the SIM packet. Server will verify the tag using the long-term key it has. And here, the second step is basically the key agreement protocol, the start of the key agreement protocol. It will drive a private key X, and it will compute the compute the point that it generated, the X that is generated on the curve. Basically, it is going to generate a public key associated with the private key it had. It will save the private key, it won't send the private key to the client, and it will create a counter timestamp any acknowledgement. We are using counter and a timestamp to make the communication fresh and to keep that like the reply attacks and everything cannot be happening in the future. So it's going to encrypt the message it is sending to the client. It will here encrypt the ID. Previously, the ID was not preserved, and like anyone who is listening to the communication will be able to see which server communicating with which client. It will send the encrypted ID, and these are the associated data that is being used in this specific port, using the public key, acknowledgement counter, and the timestamp, and sending the ciphertext and the tag to the client. Client will decrypt the message using the long-term key. And if the received ID is the same as the ID of the client will here create its own private key and the public key associated with that private key. And here in the step 3, client will derive the session key using the public key and of the server and the private key of its own. So a key derivation function is just a function where we are using a specific key derivation function as a ask on XOF, but you can use anything that fits to your system. Then it will increase the counter and the timestamp and generate a SYM packet, and it will send to the server. Here it is going to generate, encrypt the ID of the server using the derived key, that session key that it derived here at the step 3. Server will again derive the key because it has already received the public key of the client. It has its own private key and will drive the session key, and using that session key will decrypt the message it received. And if the ID stands, it will sample an acknowledgement. And here it's using the session key to compute a tag on it, and it will send it to the client. Here, client, after verifying, will understand the server has derived the same key, and from now on, after 4 steps, the handshake is complete, and they can start sending message to each other. Like, it means that it can use that shared session key to send any message it is producing from now on. Client can be a PLC, can be an IED, anything that is generating any value, and it will send it to server using authenticated encryption with associated data. So here the messages that are sending client and the server, we were able to come up with a scheme to share keys between 2 entities, between client and the server. This is really important so that the control center can trust the measurements it's receiving from any device, which is essential for real-time decision-making in the substation and devices like this. But to be more realistic, most of the devices here now on, like if you go to the I would say industry, you will say that devices already have their certificates on them. So that's why we kind of propose another variant of our protocol, which is certificate-based authenticated data acquisition protocol. We call it Cert ADA. In this approach, instead of relying on a pre-shared master key like the others, each device possesses a digital certificate issued by trusted authority. This allows us to authenticate devices even when they are deployed and commissioned by different vendors, which is common in modern substations. The initial handshake here, we are like, it's not gonna be like the previous one. They have to like authenticate themselves at the first handshake as well. But here, because there is a certificate like installed in the devices, there is no need for 2 first step to authenticate the messages to each other as well. And this means we don't like need to retransmit this control message later on. Like I will explain more on this. We're going to like be kind of inspired by the Sigma protocol, which is, as you say, it is proposed in 2003. I'm sorry. And it's not the like we changed the protocol a little bit, but again, like it's the idea is the same. So what we are going to do here, the client will start the handshake by sending a SYM packet. Here, there is no need for message authentication codes or anything, any tag on the SYM. The server basically will do the same things that we were doing at the previous protocol. It's going to drive the private key and the public key associated with that, and will generate the acknowledgement and send the public key to the client. Here, client will, again, do the same things. These are the same steps that were happening in the previous protocol. Here, client have to like kind of authenticate themselves to the server. To do so, we are going to take advantage of using signatures. Digital signatures can apply this entity authentication to the server. to the purpose, right? So here it's going to use the signing key that was already in the certificate that was on the client's device. It's going to sign the public key of its own and the receive public keys, kind of showing that I'm the legitimate entity who is driving the session key and sending it to the server. Here we are, like the identity preserving also is kind of achieved as well. When sending these messages, the signature verification is the something that was not happening in the previous section protocol, and that's the only difference here. Is because we don't have the long-term key, we cannot compute MAC on the messages, and we do entity authentication by using a signature. So pretty much the same. They're going to, after for a handshake, they're going to come up with a shared secret key, and they're going to send a message from now on. So this is a kind of a different variant. So it's showing that we can use both options, whether like we want to have a long-term key or a certificate-based kind of a solution. It depends on the system and everything. But I want to talk about a little bit more why we're the two other protocols that we propose. So up until now, most of our authenticated data acquisition protocols are relying on elliptic curve cryptography. We were using ECDH, elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman for key exchange, and elliptic curve digital signature algorithms for signature. These are very efficient today, and like if I want to have secure and also lightweight protocols, this is the way to go. But quantum computing fundamentally changes the security landscape, and it's gonna, like, it's changing. It's here now, so we cannot overlook the fact. So with Shor's algorithm, sufficiently powerful quantum computers can solve mathematical problems underlying elliptic curve cryptography in polynomial times. This means that anything that we use completely are breakable, and not just like weakened. Some of these public key cryptography that we use, they can mathematically be broken. While large-scale quantum computers do not exist yet, adversaries can already perform store now and decrypt later attacks, capturing encrypted grid traffic today and decrypting it once quantum hardware becomes available is something that we should be considering in these kind of infrastructure. For power system with multi-decade operational lifetime, this is a significant threat, and devices installed today may still be in the field when quantum attacks become practical. So to truly future-proofing time-critical grid communication, we need to transition away from quantum vulnerable primitives and adopt post-quantum cryptography, specifically with for key establishment and authentication. So let me show you like just the how we can translate the classical protocols that we propose to a post-quantum one. It's just, I'm not going to go through the steps. I'm just going to like show you how it is possible to translate those protocols and what is the tools actually we have to use instead of the classical ones. So here again, it is the PSK ADA protocol. It's just they have the pre-shared key and everything is the same. It's just that client will share in the first handshake alongside with the SYN packets and the tag on the SYN packet. It will send the its public key as well. Using that public key here, server will use, instead of like that Diffie-Hellman key agreement, it's going to use the encapsulation mechanism using that public key, and it will drive a ciphertext and a session secret. This session secret is something that is going to be used to drive the session key, and identity preserving is there. We have to keep in mind that here the authenticated encryption with associated something that we're using, it should be quantum resistant. So in the implementation, I will mention this, but this is something that we have to keep in mind. Again, receiving some the ciphertext from the server, the client will use the decapsulation mechanism and drive the session secret, and using that key derivation function, it will derive the session key. It's everything remains the same. Instead of key agreement, we are just using key encapsulation, and for AAD, we are using a quantum resistant, quantum secure variant of encryption mechanism. For the certification as well, so here client and the server, they are again going to use the encapsulation and the decapsulation mechanism, and it is pretty much the same, but something that we have to keep in mind that we are using the signature. The signature here should be also kind of quantum resistant signature algorithm, and everything remains the same. All the steps and everything are the same. So yeah, the steps didn't change. It's just the tools that we are using that will bring us to a quantum secure variant of the data acquisition protocols. So let's talk about the experimental evaluation. So we wanted to show that these protocols that we actually propose are applicable to real world scenarios. So that's why we did some experimental evaluation as well. We implemented our classical versions using Arduino PLC and a desktop. All protocols are written on C++, and we're using the library OpenSSL 3.0.5. For the key exchange, we're using a curve over ECDH over the curve 256-bit. Again, it's implemented using the OpenSSL library. For AEAD, we are using a NIST standardized AEAD ASCON. ASCON is not quantum secure, but it is lightweight enough to be used in these kind of critical time, I would say time critical infrastructure. For the post-quantum setup, we are using a Raspberry Pi and a desktop, and for key exchange, we are using NIST standardized FIPS-203 for key encapsulation mechanism, and as a signature and authentication, we are using FIPS-204 and dilithium signature, and we are using AES GCM 256, which is kind of not broken yet with the quantum computers. So these are the timings. So we implemented the PSK ADA, Cert ADA, and all of these are implemented to secure the Modbus protocol. Modbus is a legacy protocol which is facilitating communication between the client and the server. So we ran it plain TCP/IP, like the Modbus plain with no security. As you can see, it is really fast when it is between two desktops. We ran we enabled TLS to secure the Modbus, something that industry is using. Then we enabled PSK ADA and Cert ADA. As you can see, between two desktops, and also between a desktop and Arduino PLC, our Cert ADA variant of the protocol is going to outperform when outperform the TLS. So Modbus running Cert ADA will bring more security and will be more faster, so it is promising. Of course, when you're when you're using desktop and desktop to communicate with each other as a client of the server, you will see less overhead. When you're using resource constrained devices like Arduino, it will take more time, it will add more overhead to your system. But again, we are saying that the Cert ADA is going to outperform the TLS1 as well here. So we wanted to implement the quantum variant of these protocols as well. Unfortunately, we weren't able to use Arduino PLC because it wasn't able to process all those difficult, I would say, not difficult, but heavy implementations. So that's why we had to move into more realistic kind, but again, a little bit slower than the desktop. We used the Raspberry Pi. So the first column, the second column here, it's going to be the communication between two desktops. And here it's the desktop and a Raspberry Pi, the Raspberry Pi is the client here. We implemented both variants of our post-quantum protocols, and also, unfortunately, NIST didn't standardize the TLS, the post-quantum of the TLS. So what we observe is that if you use the FIPS 203 and 204, which is standardized by NIST. Maybe you can bring the TLS, post-quantum TLS to the life. So that's what we did. And to our observation, both of our protocols outperforms the TLS. So when Modbus is running our protocols, it's going to be faster than running on the TLS. So, but here, comparing to the classical version, our PSK ADA is going to be faster because it is not using the heavy digital signatures, and that's why like it's going to be more promising compared to the certificate-based variant. So, let me wrap up with the key takeaways from this work. So our classical authenticated data acquisition protocols provide strong security today. They protect identity, ensure message integrity and confidentiality, and maintain low latency operation. But they rely on a elliptic curve, as I said, which becomes completely vulnerable once quantum attacks are feasible. To address this, we introduce post-quantum variants of our protocols. They are using lattice-based cryptography. And these variants maintain the same security guarantees and protocol follow while offering long-term resilience against quantum adversaries. Of course, this is a kind of performance trade-off. Larger keys and signature lead to more data overhead and slightly higher latency. However, like we wanted to show that these are kind of practical when deployed in faster devices. Maybe like if you're changing your devices in a way that are able to do those post-quantum variants as well, maybe that is something that you should look into. But nowadays we have to be realistic. Legacy devices, most of the UT providers maybe don't want to change the devices that are already operating as they intended. So like deploying post-quantum cryptography maybe is not feasible nowadays, and maybe hybrid approaches are realistic. And we can look into the other options in the future, maybe when they are decided to like move into more computationally available devices in the future. But nowadays it's not possible to talk about these totally post-quantum variants of the protocols. So overall, this was the authenticated data anonymization framework demonstrate that we can evolve from classical to post-quantum resistant security without compromising maybe timeliness with right devices, providing a sustainable future-proof solution for the smart grid. So this was the talk. This was the overall talk that I had. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for CIC for giving me this space to talk about the product of our work. If you have any question, please do ask. And if you're watching it online later on, this is my email. If you have any questions later on, you can contact me. And yeah, that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Shabnam, for this insightful topic today. With the advent of quantum and the smart grid technology, I'm so glad we decided to have this conversation today. With this, and again, I think Shabnam has already mentioned, if anybody wants to reach out to her or collaborate with her, her email ID is mentioned here. And with this, we move on to the Q&A session today. So you did mention that your research bridges academic theory with real world applications. Could you share some examples of how your proposed protocols could be implemented within existing NB power systems or any other similar infrastructures in the country?
Of course, like we designed these protocols, keeping in mind that there are legacy devices. To be honest, at that time that we were designing this, we didn't have the testbeds available in the CIC, but now we have. Maybe I can move into that testbed and do some experiments on that. But I'm pretty much sure that using this protocol, because we use I use for the classical one, I use the Arduino PLC, which is a kind of mimicking the PLC itself. I mean, it's not the same thing, but it will going to have the same functionalities. And we were able to implement these devices on Modbus, running Modbus between the devices. So it is, from my point of view, it is feasible because most of the devices, they are using TLS within the system. So like, it is good to have more, I would say, efficient version of the TLS, which is having more, bringing more security to the system. So it is possible. Maybe in the future we can have like, we will demonstrate how this implementation on a real testbed will look like, but it is possible.
Okay. And Shabnam, there is always, when when you're adopting new technology, there is always a trade-off between the performance and security. So with respect to that, low latency systems often face the challenge of balancing security with the performance. How do your proposed ADA protocol maintains this balance, especially in time critical environments?
I would say the focus was on like timeliness with us sacrificing the authenticity when we were designing this. This ADA protocol, they are using lightweight primitives, AED encryption, MAC based on ASCON or ASGCM. Like this keeps the handshake minimal, only 2-3 messages, by avoiding like heavy certificate chains and optimizing key derivations. The latency overheads like stays between 5 milliseconds, right? Even in the like constrained devices, we were able to like make it lower than what we expected. This allows cryptographic protection to coexist with real-time protection functions, as we like observed it as well.
Thank you. Thank you for this answer. And with this, we'll have a question on the post-quantum readiness. You touched on the lattice-based cryptography for the post-quantum security. How close are we to seeing the post-quantum cryptography adopted in operational technology like smart grids?
So it's not a like I would say like I cannot have a accurate answer for this, but we are in the early like transition stage. We kind of finalize the Kyber and dilithium, like the FIPS 2.3, FIPS 2.4, like in 2024. Like it has only been a year, and integration into OT system will take time. As I mentioned, the challenges of these legacy devices that we are facing with. So I maybe like that's why in the conclusion I said maybe hybrid approaches combining like ECC with lattice-based schemes to like gradually like moving from this part to the future. Of course, like there should be some kind of willingness from the industry to change their legacy devices to a more computation heavy device so that it can be possible. But it's gonna happen whether we want it or not. But it's in the near future, I would say.
And again, a lot of your work is through an industry collaboration. So in that respect, how important do you think is collaboration between academia, government organization, and organization like NB Power, which is into the utility, in advancing the secure grid communication? Are there any partnerships or pilots that stands out in your opinion?
Hmm. I mean, it is kind of essential. Utilities understand the operational constraint. At the same time, academic drives like innovation and government bodies support this standardized and like funding. For example, our work is part of the MB Power and CIC collaboration, right? And this partnership let us validate these mechanisms in real substation environment, bridging like the theoretical models with field ready implementation. So like we should these are the insights we got from MB Power. Some of these like not the post quantum one but the classical versions, the timings and everything we provided to them and they gave us the feedback. So this is really important and really essential to keep this going, to be able to produce things that are really like I would say feasible for our operational technology, cyber physical system and everything.
Okay. Thank you, Shabnam. And again, you being a cybersecurity expert, there is always a need to study emerging, threat landscapes. So uh, from that point of view, and from your perspective, what are some of the most pressing and involving, cyber threat that you've seen in the power grid operators that, we should be preparing, let's say, in the next 5 years?
In my idea, most of the attacks and these things that we are seeing, there is a IT focused attacks, right? But nowadays, not nowadays, but we are seeing more shift from IT focused attacks to operational disruptions. Adversaries now target communication timing, relay coordinations, firmware integrity. Attacks like load redistribution or time synchronization manipulation kind of things can destabilize the grid without any malware at all. So future defense must integrate these detections and secure communication, not as a separate layer. Like they have to be combined, the IT part, the OT part, all those things should be we cannot look over the fact that these parts are isolated. I mean, not saying that these are part of the operation technology is not a part of IT and they are isolated. They are kind of combined together. So this is something that we have to keep in mind. And when designing these solutions, something that's gonna be considered more is this integration of the two worlds, I would say.
Thank you, Shabnam. We have been interested in, following some of the work that you have been doing with NB Power. And with this, we'll move to the last question of today's session. With respect to future research direction, what's next on your research? Are there areas that you're particularly excited to explore or, perhaps related to AI, adaptive security? So what's next in your area of research?
Maybe going forward, personally, I love to focus on adaptive and mathematically grounded security for cyber physical systems, but we cannot look over the fact that, for example, AI is here, and we can as I know, AI cannot design these security protocols. It needs the security proofs and these kind of grounded mathematical, but we can use, for example, AI to monitor and decision support. Also, detecting timing the deviations or unusual message patterns. Maybe it can be used, AI can be used in that pattern. The core, this secure communication must still be mathematically proven. So that means that we are going to combine all those I would say human designed protocols using and also AI devices, AI tools, I would say, to complete the process. And also we are going to going to look into different part of the grid operational technology, how to defeat the attacks, how to operate after attack is happening, how to bring in back the devices to the life. So these things are something that we they're so exciting to me, and we are looking on different part of the operational technology to see how we can overcome these, I would say, problems. How we can secure the communication to alter the attacks, how we can bring back the system after attack has happened. So these kind of there are different angles that we are looking to it right now. So these are the most most common things that comes to my mind. But yeah.
Okay. This is really interesting and exciting. I mean, we've seen a gist of your research, and with the advent of artificial intelligence, and of course, with CIC having its own OT lab, we are excited for what's next in your area of research. And with this, we come to end of today's webinar. And thank you once again for joining. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.